So we believe that people are at the heart of successful organizations and their team members' well-being, their rewards, and career development. It's all essential to a happy and healthy, highly productive workforce. So this show discusses the practical and effective leadership strategies for top executives, senior professionals, and talent managers overall. So first, I'd like to introduce everyone to our hosts today. So we have Howard Neiswitz is a senior people strategist. He's has got a lot of expertise in the industry, and I had the pleasure of working with Howard for quite some time. And also Sumit, who's international people strategist, and Shar is a serial entrepreneur and people strategist here for CompTeam, and it's always a pleasure having her on the show. Today, it's discussion, and we're going to be talking about results unleashed, achieving the goals and dreams of all of you leaders out there. And this discussion promises to transform the way we think about productivity and success overall. So we're thrilled to have Julie Miller Davis, the pioneering force behind JMD productivity training. And so Julie's dedicated her career to empowering leaders to step out of the mediocrity and reshape their work habits and patterns overall for greater success. So her focus on productivity helps clients not just meet, but exceed their professional and personal aspirations. So if you're struggling with being perpetually busy and not productive, Julie's insights today will provide you with the tools to unlock your full potential and achieve sustained success overall. So let's dive into it. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Sam. So happy to be back here. It's been a
Yes,
while.
good to have you. Definitely. And so, and for those that are of our listeners that don't know you, and I know that you were on our podcast previously last year and so forth. I mean, you've been a great guest. Can you kind of walk through a little bit of how you have got to where you are today, and why you do the things you do?
Sure. I stepped into this business after having been a teacher for 20 years. And when my son was born, I went stepped into a um another business that I was just an independent contractor for. So all the back end, all those fun things were set up for me already. And I had a team and I had other leaders around me, and found that I was working differently than a lot of them, and getting a lot of questions about how was I building what I was building, working 3 days a week. And um and I started realizing, I may be tapping into something here. And after 6 years of that, I really missed teaching, but I didn't miss school. And so kind of tapped into what women were asking me. The women is mostly who I would network with. It is not the only people I serve, however, but I really found that I operate differently when I prioritize the way that I strategize, the way that I work. And so started creating this business around, how do you proactively plan? How do you prioritize? How do you strategically set yourself up in your business and your life so that they are a beautiful marriage? And created this business. And so it really came out of um, some some innate things that I do, and then wanting other women to be able to live that way also, and work that way.
That's great. And then how have you, as you've been working with your clients and so forth, uh, what are some of the wins that you've seen overall? I mean, have you really see some of your leaders transform to become highly effective?
Yeah, it's really a transformation from being a worker into being a CEO, like being actually the boss of themselves, the boss of their team if they're hiring team members. And so some of the biggest success stories are, um, I had a I had a during COVID, I had a few clients. It was interesting because I don't always have in person. I have all kinds of businesses that work with me, but I had a photographer, a salon owner, a massage therapist, and a travel agent were in my program at when COVID hit. And all three of the four of those women actually, because of the transitions we made, the shifts we made, the way that they stepped into new ways of looking at their business, all of them broke into the six-figure range for the very first time in their businesses. It was amazing. But what I would like to talk about is the massage therapist. When she first came to me, I think it was 2019, 18, must have been 19. She was just her, and had a space that she was starting to transition into, one with multiple places to have other massage therapists work with her, for her. And and it was a huge leap, and she was able to bring in a couple part-time people here and there. And over the last 4 years, 3 years, she has transitioned pardon me, into a really huge space with 7 treatment rooms. She is running an almost $1 million business of massage therapy, serving veterans, because her husband is an injured vet. And so she's serving injured vets, and has just truly become this, not just a massage therapist, like she is running a business. And because of the strategies, because of the setting up systems, because of stepping in, faith over fear, she has been able to build this amazing place for people to come and be healed.
Mhm.
And it's a huge success story. And it's not just me who's been her coach. She's had a few of us, but I've been consistently with her since 2019, and it's been beautiful to watch.
What a great story. So,
Yeah.
as you're talking to leaders, I mean, that want the same type of success, what are the first things that they should be focusing on as far as just getting organized and goals and so forth? What are the top things that they should be first looking at?
Well, I think what happens to a lot of us in business is we become really um we become stuck in this pattern of being task oriented. Like, I'm just going to check off as many things. I got these things on my list. I got these things on, I'm just going to, so we're task oriented, and we're not goal oriented.
Hmm.
So our whole day becomes task centered. Whereas if you can shift into being goal oriented, goal centered, it changes what tasks you are engaging in, right? It changes the question you're asking yourself. It changes the trajectory of your day, of your week, of your month, all of that. And so I think if you want to truly step into CEO, if you truly want to scale to another level, or change that trajectory and make it go faster than you might be going, that's the very first thing you have to do, is switch into being goal centered, goal oriented, rather than task oriented. And it's not easy, but it's a simple thing. Right?
Kind of starting with a shift. I mean, thinking of, I mean, we're all kind of buried in what we need to do on a daily basis,
Yeah.
but into a little bit more of a strategic mindset. Is that the juncture that needs to happen?
Yeah, if you can ask yourself, if you can have those uh if you can have those goals in front of you, and it doesn't have to be, Sam and I were talking offline before this, we jumped in today, about how you can have a revenue goal for the end of the year, you can have a client goal for the end of the year, you can have a launch, like whatever you want to do by the end of the year. And I really believe in the power of three big goals for the end of the year for your business. Three is doable. Five is
Yeah.
stretching it. If you have more than that, like if you have like a list of 10 goals, you guys, you are spread too thin. There's just no way. You just can't. It's just too many places for you to try to beat. And so it's possible, though, if you have 10, that three of those might fit under one goal, right? And so then it's breaking them down into, I really believe in the 90-day goals, 90-day rule. What we put in place today is going to come to fruition and affect things 90 days from now. So in those 90 days, what do you want to do that's related to the higher goal? So everything kind of breaks backwards. And when people work more closely with me, we do a lot of, I call it the JMD reverse chunking method. So, like, where we're reverse engineering and making space on the calendar for all those things to happen.
Mhm.
Everybody, a lot of people reverse engineer, but they don't make space and they don't make a plan of like when they're going to actually work on this stuff. They just know what the steps are. And so there's that piece of the integration with the calendar that doesn't happen. But Sam, really, to answer that question specifically, now that you have that background, is when you're engaging in a task during your workday, it's that question of, is this related? Is it moving my needle? Is it moving me closer to my goal? Is it related to my goal? What happens if I do this? What happens if I don't do this? Kind of questions, right? And it changes what you do and when you do it. And I know there's a bunch of little things for you guys to mark off that just have to be done because they're part of daily business. But what if you did those like later in the day when you have less energy, you don't need as much brain power, and you're
Mhm.
just checking off as many things as possible? And what if throughout the rest of the day, the things that you're engaging in, you're asking yourself those questions and you're becoming super intentional about the action that you're taking every single day? It changes your story.
Right. No kidding. And I imagine that, and Shar, if you just thinking back, on what you do from a day-to-day basis, do you find some of junk in your calendar that's like, well, maybe I just do this for fun. Maybe it's a distracting moment. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I have actually enjoyed working with Julie, and I've actually had the joy of taking her workshop several years ago when I was more in a corporate role. And fast forward now as more of an entrepreneur and working with Comp Team and the Strategic Thinking Institute now, um, I have honed in how I'm managing my daily tasks. And just, I can hear you, Julie, talking in my mind about those 3 solid rocks a day or things to accomplish, because I have a tendency to want to, as I always say, solve world hunger. And as we
Yeah,
say, bump around like a bumper car and squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. So just the simple task of cleaning up your email box. I mean, how many hours do we spend cleaning our emails out? And then really blocking undivided time a day for real serious focused work, and then being able to get some sunshine and getting a little activity in during the day. You really need to have the discipline to be able to align your day, right, Julie? But I
absolutely.
think, and I love your, and you have a free tool I know you're going to talk about later, because I just asked for it on your LinkedIn page and your website. Your free, what do you call it, your daily planner
My
task.
daily productivity planner. Yeah, we'll talk. We can
Yeah, I'm
talk
already
about that.
talking about
Yeah.
it. I brushed that off because I think when you and I can't remember what year that was. That was definitely in 2015 or something, when you did that workshop in Denver, or the Highlands Ranch area. I remember that you had that form, and at the time I really didn't have a daily planner or something. That I had the work outlook, but I didn't have a personal one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I do think it's about your strategy, your life, and how you're managing. So I could go on and on because I know you quite well.
Yeah.
But you have those free resources, right, Julie? But also you have
Yeah.
workshops and that type of thing too, to help people with these things.
Yeah, there's all kinds of free resources and free workshops that I offer all year long at my on my website. You can find all that stuff. But what I like that Shar is saying right now is that I am I think that you have to make sure that you're not all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy, right? Whatever that
Right.
um I'm not about all work. I am about recharging your battery. It's funny because I was just talking about this on a summit that I was on yesterday. Is that one of the greatest things about being a business owner, about being an entrepreneur, is that, and maybe even those of you who are working from home now or have a little bit more flexibility with how you are, with how COVID has changed the way that we work, you have the ability to recharge your battery. So what does that look like for you? And schedule it. it's not like I'll give you an example. And when I tell you that I work 3 days a week, um, I'm not lying. And sometimes I work more. Right now I'm working more because I've got a huge event coming up and it's that season for me. But in the summertime, I play golf on Tuesdays, I play tennis on Wednesday mornings, I play tennis on Friday mornings. And I'll tell you that those are the first things to go on my calendar, and everything else gets scheduled around it. If something comes up that has to interfere with that, I will schedule into that, but it's very rare. It's very rare. And so you have to put your recharging in there first, or it will be an afterthought. And
Agree.
then we're fried, right? We're so
Yep.
exhausted. We're so fried.
Well, I have to say, our dear colleague Sumit here on the other side of the world, Sumit, I'm putting you on the spot because you're Mr. Night Owl, or at least you're forced to be with all these meetings across the other side of the planet. I mean, what are your thoughts about productivity and time management and getting unstuck, as Julie talks about? What are your thoughts about that?
I think the idea of three that Julie was talking about, it really appeals to me. And I mean, I'm one of the most indisciplined people I know of, and that really hampers my productivity. But I've been trying to follow the advice from Cal Newport in his book A World Without Email, where he talks about doing fewer things and not being sucked into a constant stream of digital communications. So uh, I consciously switch off my email for a while when I need to be productive and do not respond to Slack or WhatsApp or other things. So my phone's upside down at my desk on silent mode, with, of course, critical family numbers having access. So for those couple of hours, I'm completely focused on the task at hand, and all social media, everything else can go take a hike. I mean, so far the world hasn't crashed and burned, and I think I mean, the earth will carry on spinning even if I carry on doing this in the future. So I mean, I'm all for trying to squeeze in fewer things, but doing them better instead of fitting every possible thing into one's workday.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Submit,
think,
you said some. Oh, go ahead, Howard.
oh, I was gonna say,
Sorry.
I think we get so work focused that we forget about the me time, as you said. And it's, just as important to have that downtime and also just to clear your head. And it actually, the end result, I think, actually makes you more productive because the other way just leads to burnout.
Absolutely. How many great ideas even come to you when you've released your brain, right?
Mm.
I had I had a 5-minute talk a few weeks ago for a sponsorship I was doing, and I had no idea what I was going to say. I was stressing about it. I couldn't figure it out because I sponsor the same event every year, and I wanted to say something different than I usually say. And in the shower that morning, I was like, "Oh, I got it," because I wasn't thinking about it. Right? It's like because you're subconscious. I have a friend, Betsy Clark. She's a mindset and like confidence coach, and she talks about telling your brain what you want it to work on while you sleep. She's like, "Hey, when I wake up in the morning, I'd really like to know about this." And so she lets it work on an answer and then wakes up with sometimes some clarity. And but we all do that, right? I mean, we wake up sometimes with clarity, or we think of it in the middle of the night and we think it's a brilliant idea, and then we can't remember in the morning. But she's getting much more intentional about that. Like she's gonna direct her subconscious on what she wants it to work on. But like Howard, if we go for a walk, if we go do something that takes our attention another way, it frees us up to have so many thoughts about our business or our lives or solve problems and all of that, because sometimes we're in our own way because we're thinking too hard about stuff.
Agree.
Julie, you got me thinking about that because, when you talk about your brain and the health of your brain,
Yeah.
you talked about sleep, and I believe me, in a previous forum, I talked about this as far as the science of your brain. And when you sleep, you are restoring, but it's also about diet. And you want, because you're very much into fitness and diet and wellness and taking care of yourself so that your brain can fire and correct it in the best way to be more productive, to problem solve, to be more strategic in your life and career. I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't you agree? It's also about your health and wellness. It helps support what you suggest to your clients.
It is 100%, 100%. If you're, I find, if you're working a ton and you're not taking care of your body, if you're not moving, you're sleeping a lot worse and you're not letting your brain ever turn off. And so you're in bed trying to go to sleep and your brain won't turn off. And you're waking up at 3 a.m. and your brain won't turn off. It's because we're not training it to disengage. And but if I've been active, I am a lot better sleeper. It's true for babies and it's true for us too. So but really and truly, it's all about prioritizing yourselves, prioritizing your goals, and getting super intentional around what you're doing for all of it and not hoping and wishing that stuff gets done, not hoping and wishing that you would eat better, not hoping and wishing that you would get outside this weekend or whatever it is, right? Because I'll tell you right now, I have not put like cleaning up my garden on my calendar and there it sits. And I keep thinking, oh, maybe I could do that at like 4:30 today, but I don't put it on the calendar, right? I'm like, oh, maybe I could do that at 10 o'clock on Saturday. And so then I look out the window, I'm like, oh, dang, I didn't do the garden again. Oh, dang. And so we do that personal stuff and we do that work stuff. Do you guys find it? It's on your list for days and days, weeks and weeks, months and months. And you're like, oh, dang, I didn't do that thing. Oh, darn it. Still haven't gotten to that.
Yeah, and it keeps moving pages, right? Because then I have my little to-dos that's about 20 items long. And then I cross them off and then I flip the page and I'm always adding them to the next page. And after a while, it's pretty frustrating. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
have you heard that? Obviously, everyone's heard eat the frog, right? Is that the word you use?
Yeah.
I mean, you if you could get that the biggest issue or rock as or whatever I say done
Yeah.
first, then the rest of your day is a little bit more tolerable with getting things done. Would you agree, Julie?
I would agree 100%. And sometimes it's not the whole thing. Like, you know, that then we're going to go to how do you eat elephant one bite at a time. So it's like the big things aren't going to happen all at once. And that's why we procrastinate, right? Because it's like, oh, it's going to take too long. I can't get started on that. Why not? Why not do the first step? And the second, that's reverse chunking again, right? So we're going to figure out the steps and we're going to do the first step, then the second step, and we're going to create time on the calendar to work on each step. And sometimes it takes longer and sometimes it takes usually shorter than we think. Usually something we thought would take 90 minutes takes us like 17 and a half minutes, right? So because we're actually focused, because that comes back to what Sumit was saying, like how much we lose focus because that's the number one thing that I tell my clients to do is to turn off their notifications. Turn them off, turn them off, turn them off. And I know it sounds scary and it's probably making some of you sweat, but turn them off. I have people who have turned them off and they like 6, 7, 8 years ago, I told them to turn them off and they've never turned them back on. And Sumit, I love that you have notifications off. Your phone is upside down on your desk. There's research out there. You could look it up. The further away this is from you, the more productive you are. If it's across the room, if it's out of the room, if it's across the house, you're more and more and more and more productive. They did a study with high school kids where their phone was on their desk, then their phone was in their backpack, then their phone was in their locker. It changed how they were focused during class. Like, I think it was over 75% more focused. It was probably, I would say, in the 90s is my guess. I can't remember the study, but they did a whole thing on it. These are crazy. They make us crazy. We check it. Are you ready for this? 97 times an hour.
Check the phone 97 times an hour. Wow.
Yep. An hour.
And I find what makes it worse is these. So you can
Yeah,
keep your
mine's
phone
not
away.
attached.
I'm
Yep,
sure that, yeah.
yep. That's my next crusade is to unattach your phone from your watch. It's hard. Yeah. How did we ever live when we had a corded phone that only rang when we were home?
Well, I learned how to stretch that thing really long. And but it's so right. I mean, it's funny. I saw a video where a younger person was like, "How do you answer your phone?" And now they go like, it's not like this, it's like this, I mean, technology has just been shifting so crazy. It's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
I'd like to make, oh, go ahead.
no, I say it's funny when you see kids and you give them a phone with a dial and they have no idea how to dial a phone number with a dial.
Yeah, what's this? It's
Yeah.
okay. Now we're aging ourselves, folks. But I would like to maybe, since we are People Strategy Forum, Julie, and you and I've talked about this in the past, from I talk about the how an executive team could perhaps have what I call a competitive advantage and to differentiate themselves not only for the business, but also as the efficiency of the executive team, which ultimately will cascade throughout the organization if we set the role model, as if we see our senior team being able to manage time well, to see our senior team not fire drilling us on Sunday morning on Easter, which has happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bitter about that. And not expecting last minute PowerPoints and I don't think we even call them that anymore. But it's if we see our executive team having that life balance. I remember one time in one of my healthcare systems, I was working past 6 p.m. So I was fairly new in my position. And bless my VP that walked in and she said, Shar, I know you just started here. Yeah, I was in my 30s. And she's like, but you have two young children at home. And she's like, kind of concerns me that you're here past 6 and you need to work smarter, not harder, you know? And so here I thought I was really impressing my boss, but ultimately she did not see that as an asset. And so it really changed my thinking about my time management. Also, when the Blackberries came out, that's when it really got nuts, right? Because I was constantly responding to managers all
I
day
remember.
long.
Yeah, I
Remember?
remember.
Do you remember the pictures of me with my BlackBerry on my
You
hip
were
all the time?
you were
That
tied to
definitely,
it. Yeah.
I was. But anyway, so what do you think about executives
Yeah.
really setting that role model for companies and organizations and how it cascades through the workforce?
Your people are only as good as you as a leader, right? And so it is so important that you and your team are number one on the same page. Number two, that you are setting parameters around your team. I'm actually battling this right now. If she's watching, if she watches this, I don't know. But she's texting me at like 9 o'clock on Saturday night, and I'll wake up to stuff that was sent at 7 o'clock Sunday morning. And I'm like, why? And I text her. I'm like, why are you working right now? I am not going to respond to this. Why are you working right now? And you can push. And if you have a thought, and I understand thoughts happen, but you can push and hold the send arrow and schedule it to go out when you want it to go out. You can still have the thought. On Slack, you can push and hold the arrow, you can schedule it. So you can still have the thought, record it, and schedule it so that you're not interrupting someone else's Easter, someone else's Mother's Day, someone else's Saturday. I understand that we have thoughts, but you as a leader can tell your team what your expectations are, when your expectations are, and also get everyone on that same page. Like, what is the goal? What are the goals? So that they're not all working on all the things all the time. So that you are all really clear, like, what is it right now? What is it for the next 90 days? What is it, and so that if you have those, and you don't have to have, I mean, meetings is a whole other subject of mine that I make me crazy, unnecessary, too long meetings. But have those 5 minute stand up meetings Monday morning. What are you working on? What are you working on? What are you working on? Here's what I need. Anybody have any questions? What's up? See ya. And so everybody's on the same page and nobody's wondering. what they're supposed to be doing, if they're doing enough, if they're working on the right thing, and what the expectation actually is. There's
Mhm.
so much around that, Shar. And
Well,
but yeah,
I would love to get Sumit and Howard and even Sam's input on this because they're the technical guys,
yeah.
not to typecast these individuals around AI and then one quick comment and then Sam has a comment, but I want to say like there's brainstorming tools that I've been utilizing recently through Teams and we just pull sticky notes. So you know those little ideas that come in, 2 in the morning or whenever, and then you just pop your sticky note and then my colleagues are all putting their sticky notes back so we're not constantly emailing each other back and forth and it's live platform on Google Docs. What do you think, Sam?
So I think there's a lot of those great tools out there, but like you said, Charm, one of those tools that work for you is the paper based, and you write things down and you go to the next day and then the next day. Sometimes the electronic tools doesn't they're so efficient that we kind of forget what's written on them, and so when you go down and say, oh gosh, I didn't get that today, how should that be prioritized tomorrow? I think that it makes us that extra step of writing it in a book, uh, brands it into our mind, and then it makes us reevaluate it on a regular basis to see why didn't I achieve that? Why, if this was a priority, why didn't I get to it? So I think there's a right tool for everyone out there overall. But one thing I would like to revisit though is just on the goal setting process. And I know, Julie, I mean, you were saying that the power of three, having those three goals and so forth, but making sure that those goals are set appropriately with uh, so that they're attainable within that period with the right amount of effort. So some leaders are fans of that stretch goal mentality, but then half the time they don't ever get there to meet those goals. So what do you propose when we're setting goals to be making sure that's realistic?
When we set the end of the year goals, when my team does that, and even their 90-day goals that we do, um, for my clients and my team, we have like right now we have an event coming up. So we have like I call it the realistic goal, which is like a little higher than what I think we can do, or that my brain thinks we can do is more like it. And then I have I would call it stretch goal, right? That feels pretty I actually call it the uncomfortable goal. Like it's not comfortable, but maybe we could do it. And then I have what I call the pie in the sky goal. I have 3 tiers of the goal, but they're all related to the same like goal, right? It's just that I have 3 tiers. And it's pretty amazing if you just do the stretch goal that most people aren't meeting, the one that they're calling a stretch goal. Um, you feel so unaccomplished, right? And so that's the other piece, Sam. I think this is a really good question because we have to engage with those goals throughout the year. And a lot of people set those goals, especially I shouldn't say especially, when they're in a job and in their businesses. They set these goals and they never look at them again. And especially like when I had a job in education, I had to set these goals every year, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, here you go, whatever. I never never looked at them again. I'm like, I'm doing my job. And now my view on that has changed as far as how I am in a business sense. And it probably would change if I ever went back into education, the way that I dealt with that. But that was a leader problem, right? That was a leader problem. They were doing what they had to do by asking us for goals,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But there wasn't like a overall goal for the department or an overall goal for the building or whatever. So that goes back to that, Sam. And then I think that we can't just slap these goals up there in December or January. Hopefully you guys are trying to set goals in December and not January, because January you're a month behind already. Is there have to be check-ins, and whether that's quarterly, monthly, 3 times a year, I don't really care how often you do it, but you have to decide if you're on track. And then you have to decide, man, things have shifted So we need to shift and tweak this goal, or I still think this is the goal, and we need to look at what we need to do. How does our focus need to change in order to get where we want to go? And so remember that your goals are not written in blood or chiseled in stone. Like they are, they can be dynamic, like they can be flexible, but we have to keep them in front of us and we have to
What
check in.
Well, hey, I have a question for you, and because many of us do this. What is your thoughts about the New Year's resolutions? And what are your thoughts about those resolutions when usually by the end of January we're like, dang it, I didn't do that.
I
What do you think?
Well, I don't subscribe to New Year's resolutions because that that most of our resolutions are around habits, and that takes time and it's hard. And so um there's generally a plan that people can stick to, or a behavior that people might stick to for a couple weeks. And that's because it's a habit they're trying to change and they're not really engaged in those habit changing behaviors. Like they have to change a routine. Like there's all kinds of things, right? A lot of you know that I'm a student of habit, and that's a big thing that we do is we work on shifting or creating new habits when you work with me. And so yeah, that's a whole thing, Shar, because New Year's resolutions are around habit, and that takes time. A habit takes 28 days to form, but it takes like 65 days to actually like stick. So
Wow. Well,
keep that
I
in
like,
mind.
yeah, but I like what you said about those check-ins, because it's like
Yeah.
I feel like to really help us achieve, we need that accountability partner, and sometimes that's our manager when we're doing that a check-in with them, and going through the what needs to be accomplished and so forth. Because what I also find is if we don't have them at a regular interval, then fear starts to build through as time passes. I mean, I sometimes I'll set
Yes.
up a financial goal, and then I was like, and I'll get busy with life, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to look at my bank account. It's like, you're just dreaded, you're scared to look at it. It's like, oh, I'm just going to put it off, and I'll look at it tomorrow. And then, or what the credit card balance is, so so I think that making sure that somebody's holding you accountable, and you have those regular check-ins, so that you sit down together and you assess before it gets too far off track, is
And
something
then you're not surprised,
that's
like in a good way or a bad way. And I mean, Sam, that credit card bill, you put off looking at that, and then you get in there and like, what, what, something's wrong here. You're like, how did that happen?
and then you
So
dig in all
yeah,
it. Then you take 5 hours digging into the history. It's like, where did this charge come? Where did they come? I mean, if you just stayed up on it and just watched your goal as you were going, it'd be much better off for sure.
exactly, exactly. So that goals are really some people are afraid to set goals because they're afraid of failure. But if you can remember that the goals they can be dynamic, they can be flexible. The goals drive behavior. The goals drive what you are deciding to engage in, what you're taking intentional action on. They want to move you from thinking about like activities that you're doing or being in motion. I just wrote my newsletter on this too, that's coming out tomorrow. To being in action, like we're taking action. You're either in motion or you're taking action. Two different things. So let's move from being in motion to taking intentional action that is related to the goals. If you keep the goals in front of you, and you can do something related to it every day. I heard Jeff Hoffman, who was he's the founder of Priceline.com. He doesn't own it anymore, but he's owned several businesses. But he talks about how he used to put, like early on in his, before Priceline and all of that, he put a 3x5 card on his mirror, and he had to look at himself in the mirror every day and say, what am I doing today to reach my goal? And at the end of the day, had to look at himself in the mirror and say, what did I do today to work towards my goal?
Oh, that's super powerful. Super powerful. Thanks for that. I mean, that is a great tip. I mean, so I know that, and one thing I do is I put my goals on a board, and I keep it in my office, but really putting in that mirror. I mean, that really is that self accountability piece, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at yourself, you're looking at your goal, you're saying, all right, and then reflecting, as you mentioned. I mean, having that reflection at the end of the day. Okay, what did I do to move the needle in this direction? So powerful. That's a great tip.
Yeah. It was really powerful when I heard him speak. Yeah.
Smith, I'd love to hear from you as far as do you how do you set goals and keep yourself accountable to them? I mean, overall, I mean, do you feel like this is something that you've worked on quite much?
Um, so one, I write down the goals physically on paper and keep them taped to my desk where I see them every day. Second is there are a few friends and folks that I look up to, so I discuss the goals with them, and it's kind of like making a public commitment that this is what I'm setting out to do, and they kind of act as my accountability partners. Um, and so that's on the long term basis. On a daily basis, I'm not a huge fan of the eat that frog kind of a philosophy. So I started in the reverse order. I try and pick whatever's the easiest and the quickest thing to get off the list. So once you've got your shoulders a little loose and you're kind of in the groove, I find it becomes easier. So it's like when you go to the gym, you don't start off with the heaviest weight first. You warm yourself up, you get the blood circulating, and then decide on what you'd like to tackle as a bigger goal.
Thanks, Smith. Well, as we're kind of reflecting on what our conversation was today, I mean, Julie, when we're thinking about what we want our listeners to really take away from the conversation today, how would you sum things up?
I think number one, you need to get super clear on what it is that you want. Even if you can't go as far out as the year, go as far out as 90 days. What do you want to have happen in the next 90 days? And break that down. Secondly, is that if you can take intentional act, we're going to go back to that word, intentional action. You're really moving from stuck to strategic. You're making yourself be strategic, even if you don't like that word. Intentional action is all about getting strategic about how you are and keeping that goal in front of you. And the third thing is um, truly have patience because we live in this instant gratification world. Everything is at our fingertips right now. Everything is on our doorstep tomorrow, right? So we in business have to have some patience. It takes a while to warm people up. It takes a while for us to warm up. It takes a while for things that we're putting into place to actually take root. So if you can have that patience, be consistent, be intentional around your actions, I think that you're right on track.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Julie.
Yeah.
So I one thing I know that you are often you have speaking at a lot of events and have a large online presence. So can you tell us what's coming up in your world?
I can. I'm so excited. I have a virtual event. You can come from anywhere in the world and attend. May 15th, 16th, and 17th, we'll be broadcasting live on Zoom, and you have all kinds of interaction with other people. It's not just me speaking at you. I teach. So I teach it, you practice it, you share, you learn, and you walk away with a plan. It's called Results Unleashed, just like this program was today. So what would happen if we unleashed some results, like if we unleashed the path to how you're going to get to where you want to go? And that's what we're doing. And we're going to drop a code for you to get $100 off your ticket, so your ticket would only be $97 for that. And if you want the free gift that Shar talked about earlier, which is my daily productivity planner, we're going to drop that link as well. And that's at my website, which is juliemillerdavis.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure going through this conversation with you and really getting these pointers to becoming more productive and effective in the workplace as a leader. So thank you so much, Julie.
I just appreciate all of you having me back. It's good to see all your faces again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been so. I mean, how many times? Is this your third time, Julie?
I think it's my 4th or 5th actually since COVID.
Dang,
Yeah.
where have I
Yeah.
been? Oh my gosh. Isn't it like scary that it's already 2024 and we kicked this off in 2020? Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
So,
Yes, it's been a great journey. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into the People Strategy Forum, and we'll see you next week.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
thank you, Julie. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.